At Parker, our purpose is simple. We want to make the world a better place by working more efficiently, by using more sustainable practices, by developing better technologies. We keep moving forward. With each new idea, innovation, and partnership, we're one step closer to fulfilling our purpose every single day. To find out more, visit parker.com/purpose. Parker, engineering your success.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
No intro, no music. We're getting right into it. It's the hashtag Saints Twitter podcast. I'm joined with Ryan Hilton. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at ThatBoyWolf. We're just gonna get right into this special one-off podcast. We're joined by Tony Pauline from Pro Football Network. I'm gonna give Tony a lot of praise. He is one of the busiest men going at this point in time around the draft. I listen to all his podcasts, the Draft Analyst podcast with Christian Prody, the Pro Football Network Draft Insiders podcast with Andy Herman, their podcast I listen to every week. And I consistently say in terms of Saints knowledge when it comes to the draft, I told Ryan recently that I missed the pro day updates that Tony would post because there would be plethora of information. He was the first person that really linked the Saints to Michael Thomas, talked about the Saints being interested in Stephon Anthony prior to anyone else. So in terms of draft knowledge and potentially what the Saints' plans are, always want to read and hear what Tony's saying. You can follow Tony on Twitter at Tony Pauline. Hey, Tony, thanks for joining us, man. We greatly appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for having me.
So we'll get right into it. Know you're a busy person. So I'm going to start off I want to say that you kind of mentioned this at Pro Football Network, probably during the combine, that the Saints potentially were going to be interested in adding 2 wide receivers in the draft. And this was prior to the signing of Emmanuel Sanders. So as the draft gets closer at 24, do you still see a wide receiver being their plan for that first round pick?
I think if a good wide receiver is there, they will absolutely consider it. I think if a quarterback like Jordan Love falls down to them, they'll consider that because, they've got to look at or address a future quarterback. Taysom Hill's real good, but I don't know if they trust Taysom Hill under center as their franchise-type quarterback. I still think from what I've heard, they're leaning heavily towards receiver unless somehow a quarterback blows them away by falling to their spot.
And with that, so you said you kind of highlighted and said a good receiver, and because this draft has so many different variations of what a team may like in a receiver, who could you see that player being in terms of being a good receiver?
Well, you got to look at Denzel Mims of Baylor. I mean, he's a faster version of Michael Thomas. He's a receiver that's moving up draft board swiftly. He may be there. If he's not there, I think Justin Jefferson of LSU is a great fit for a variety of reasons. Not only the fact that he played college football about 2 hours west of New Orleans, but he's probably be one of the faster receivers that would be on their depth chart. He's a guy that's had 2 good years of production at LSU. He showed a lot of improvement in his game last year, And the one thing we know about LSU receivers is they are better in the NFL than they are on the college level, and they're darn good in the college level. So I think Justin Jefferson, Denzel Mims are guys that they absolutely should consider or would consider when they're called to the clock.
Hey, Tony, I got a question. At the beginning of the draft process, you had speculated that Jerry Jeudy could have like a Calvin Ridley-like draft fall in round one. As the draft gets closer, is that still a possibility to you, or has the word kind of changed on that?
Well, it's funny you remind me about that because I completely forgot about that. And, you saw the news yesterday that Jerry Jeudy scored in the single digits on the Wonderlic test. The fact that he's not a good fit for every team, for every offense. I know the New York Jets like him, but I still think it's a possibility. I mean, when you watch the Jerry Jeudy tape, the highlights are spectacular. I mean, he is a game breaker. He's a good route runner. He catches the ball well. But as I said when I wrote that piece, he needs space to work. If you watch Jerry Jeudy in confined quarters, he struggles. He's not a very aggressive receiver. He finishes plays by running out of bounds. He struggles in battles. If there's no room around him, he really can't create running after the catch. Again, the draft meeting, teams are ending their draft meetings or their draft meetings as far as where they're holding them this year, today. So I would expect to have more information. I don't think it's out of the question, primarily because of the fact, what I said about Jeudy back when I wrote that article, the fact that the Wonderlic scores came to light, and it's a loaded receiver draft. So, if it's a matter of a team up top looking at a receiver or an offensive tackle or, a cornerback, they're going to get a better receiver in round two than they would cornerback or offensive tackle. So they may just hold off on the receiver.
Good point.
You had mentioned Jordan Love earlier. I think last week during your rumors that you posted, you had kind of potentially outlined Jordan Love as potentially the Raiders, if not potentially his floor being the Saints at 24. And then I believe this morning, potentially Miami may be looking at him with their second first round pick. Like, his range seems to be such a variance in terms of where he could go. But I guess the question is if the Saints, let's say Jordan Love falls to 24 and there's another good receiver there, could you see it being that they're making that decision of wide receiver versus Jordan Love at that spot?
I would think so because, I was told that they're going to look to address the quarterback position of the future. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do it in round one. I spoke with somebody and we kind of surmised, somebody close to the situation, that if Jordan Love is there, it would be a definite consideration. And you're right what you said about Jordan Love being all over draft boards. I reported this morning that Miami may not take a quarterback at 5 and may look to maneuver up from that second pick. Then there are some people who tell me that they feel that Jordan Love could actually be this year's version of Drew Lock, and a guy who falls out of the first round completely and ends up in round 2. So it'll be interesting to see. But excuse me, I still think it'll be receiver. But if there's a good quarterback there, if a Jordan Love is there, I think he's definitely going to be in the conversation.
Wow. So I guess the other, another question is, one of the stars coming into this draft for, the last year or so was Tua. And, you had the whole tank for Tua thing. He was pretty much the number one overall pick in everyone's mock, coming into this year. But, then the injury happened and you got the coronavirus quarantine and, his medical checks not being available to, all 32 teams as it would normally be. So, what's the outlook with Tua? Because you're hearing everything from, hey, maybe he goes in the top 5 to, hey, he could slide and no one knows where he could fall.
Well, you got to remember one thing. Tua was at the combine. So teams did get a chance to medically evaluate him and do what they want to do, MRIs, x-rays, and everything. What he missed out on were the medical rechecks, as you mentioned, which is the second part of the combine. Now, it's very easy these days to get MRIs to teams that want them, or updated MRIs. as opposed to maybe say what they do at the combine oftentimes is they'll actually pull on a knee joint or something, just to try and see how strong it is. I don't know that they were going to do that with Tua. So I don't know that the medicals or updated medicals are that much of a problem for him, especially in this day and age, and the fact that he went to the combine. It's just a matter of how are teams going to view those medicals, because it's not across the board. It's not a parallel thing where all 32 teams will look and view the medicals the same way and have the same opinion. You could have, hypothetically, and I stress this is hypothetically, the Miami Dolphins may red flag them. The Los Angeles Chargers may be absolutely fine with them. And if you red flag a guy, you're usually putting a half-round grade penalty on it because of injuries. Got to remember, what teams are really looking at when they look at medicals is, will a guy be able to make it to a second contract? It's not about what's going to happen in 2020 as much as it's what's going to happen in 2025. If we take this guy with the 5th or 6th pick of the draft, are we going to be able to sign him to a second contract in 2025, 2026? That is just as important. And again, it's a variety of opinions. You look at Montez Sweat last year. People were talking about him dropping out of the first round because of the pre-existing heart condition. And it came to the point with Montez Sweat where the reward of what Montez Sweat could potentially bring to the football field outweighed the risk of the medical condition. And I think that's probably what's going to happen with Tua, unless the medicals are really awful. I mean, Tua's a fantastic quarterback. He's still my number 1 rated quarterback. He is the best downfield, the best combination of downfield passer, touch passer, accurate passer, ability to make plays in or out of the pocket, doing it on a consistent basis, a big body of work, playing in the big time game. And you have to add that into the equation when looking at the medicals, because he is such a real good passing prospect, not just a quarterback. He's an outstanding passer.
Yeah, I completely agree.
A position that a lot of people have tied Saints to in terms of just mock drafts is the linebacker position, and there's a lot of mocks out there that has Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray potentially being the pick at 24. And I was listening to the Defensive Five podcast recently when you guys were going over your Defensive Five, and Patrick Queen wasn't even in your top 5 of linebackers. When I watched him, I didn't have the best sense for him as a player when I watched him. I didn't kind of get the hype that kind of surrounds him. That said, there are some Saints fans who are hesitant of Kenneth Murray because they feel like that potentially he's another Stephon Anthony in the making. Is linebacker a position that you could see them addressing, or that may be something that they could address later in the draft?
I mean, possibly. I could see that happening. I like Kenneth Murray. I would not worry about him being a Stephon Anthony type. And remember, Stephon Anthony was a guy who made a late move up draft boards. Kenneth Murray's been an outstanding linebacker the past 2 years. And I think basically you describe the way I feel about Patrick Queen. There's all this love being thrown around for Patrick Queen at 6 feet tall, 229 pounds. And when I just watch him on film, he's a solid player, but he's not an exceptional player, where Kenneth Murray has shown himself to be an exceptional player. The answer to your question, yeah, do I think Kenneth Murray would get consideration with the Saints pick there? I absolutely think he'll do, but I still believe that receiver will basically be the main topic of conversation.
So I'm going to piggyback in regards to Ryan's topic of Tua, because it seems like right now there's a lot of Saints fans on Twitter and Saints fans in general who just have like this hope that Tua could fall to 24. Is there any possible way that you could potentially see that happening?
Well, I mean, everything's possible. Look who the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers is
right.
these days, and look what happened with him. So anything's possible. Is it probable? I don't think so, because I just think there are too many teams that need quarterbacks. Miami Dolphins at 5, Miami Dolphins at 18, the Oakland Raiders, Jacksonville Jaguars, on and on and on. There are so many teams that need a quarterback. And again, You go back to, when does the reward factor outweigh the risk of Tua?
Yeah. That's a good point.
So just so you know, Houston, Texas is going to call me. They're supposed to call me soon. So.
Oh, okay. Well, we're pretty much done. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining us, and just in a short period of time, just a plethora of information regarding the Saints and their potential upcoming draft plans. Again, you can follow Tony on Twitter at Tony Pauline. Read his work at Pro Football Network. It's fantastic. And we're less than a week away from the draft, and craziness is about to be upon us. So thank you so much for Tony. I know it's only going to be crazier for you for the next week going forward.
Thanks for having me again, fellas. Good luck to the Saints, and enjoy draft weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Tony.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.